to see you again after seeing you over at AFI. We had dinner together. We had a great screening for Memory. First of all, I got to tell you in person, congratulations on the Best Actor win over at Venice, where this film had its world premiere. Uh, what did that feel like? Were you surprised? What was going through your mind when they called your name?
I mean, I wasn't surprised when they called my name because they tell you to stick
In
around,
advance. Yeah,
right? They don't tell you you've won, but they say, "Why don't you stay in Venice another day?" So, it was actually a great way to win an award. I mean, for a lot of reasons,
hmm
because it's confined, right? Like films are selected to a festival, then there's a jury, they watch those films, they talk about it, they think about it. It's amongst this group of movies. Um, so it doesn't feel as crazy as some of these other awards things that are so, it's populist.
hmm Totally.
um, but to actually get up and accept it felt like just a great opportunity to sort of share it. You know what I mean? Getting up on stage and receiving an award like that is really about like what I said in the speech. It's about like communion between yourself and everyone else who saw the movie. You know?
Absolutely. It's also a great way too for eyeballs to get on smaller films such as this. And at the time, it didn't have distribution. Now it
Yeah.
does, and you're rightfully receiving an awards campaign to highlight your work. Because, quite frankly, I feel like all across your entire career, you've always been subtly recognized, whether it's from various critics groups, Emmy nominations, whatever the case might be. Been a part of many SAG nominated ensembles, but I
Yeah.
just don't know if we've ever had an opportunity to really, really focus and hone in on what a great actor you truly are. And that's what I want to do here is I really want to highlight how remarkable your performance of Saul is in this movie here in Memory. So first of all, I want to know, what was the preparation like, because this character suffers from a debilitating illness of dementia. And so what work went into understanding that disease and how it could impact your performance?
So yeah, I obviously that was a very good place to start in terms of thinking about him. One really important thing to me from the beginning was that I didn't want to make the character his affliction,
Mhm.
right? Like he is not dementia. So, and also where he is at in terms of his dementia in the movie is a place that I know pretty well. I've known people, my uncle who's close to me, who some of those early times, it's very confusing for family and for the person suffering from it, right? Because they remember a lot of things and they're able to do a lot of things. And then suddenly they're not able to do something.
Yeah.
And so it's very easy to pathologize someone before they have actually even gotten to the point of needing, to be watched 24/7 kind of thing. So in order to do that, I really wanted to meet people who were kind of early on with it. And we had a doctor who was working with us on the film, and he put me in touch with two different patients that I had a kind of phone relationship with because I felt uncomfortable about showing up and getting to know someone and them knowing somewhere that I was just studying their affliction, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and I had it was just such a lovely way to do it because we didn't talk about dementia hardly at all, right? I mean, occasionally, but I just chatted with them and I was really surprised and moved by how much of their lives they still had, both of these men. And
Absolutely.
that was an important thing to me going in, is that idea that don't count me out yet. I've got another 10 minutes. My dance card isn't full. Can't we just, you know, like we all have an expiration date. Mine's just a little sooner.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. But there's a real hopeful message that rings true in Franco's film here. Something that I jokingly have said I haven't gotten sometimes from some of his other films before.
Yeah.
But what was that like for you coming into this, knowing his previous work and then knowing what this material was and how he wanted to approach it?
I thought he was way out on a limb. And to the point where, because he's very collaborative.
Hmm.
When we were making the film, and I'm not going to say what it was, but I had a Michel Franco ending in my head.
Sure.
It's a pretty obvious one.
Hmm.
Um, and I guess I could tell you, it just involves introducing yourself to someone else, you know, and that would have been, I think it would have been cheap, actually.
Hmm.
But I
Yeah.
was I was really busy trying to make it a Michel Franco film for some period of time before he just said, he was really at a time in his life during COVID when he was thinking about things that he wanted in his life, and those were a lot of positive things, including love. And so it's very brave to try to make a love story, even though this is, one that is maybe not an idealized one,
Hmm.
but it certainly is a love story. And it's very brave for the actors to do it too. It's much easier to make something that is cynical or meta
Yeah.
or clever, or this is none of those things. This is just straight for the truth.
I thought it was incredibly honest and hopeful in the sense that if you can find two people who are this broken that can still find some form of hope in their lives, like that just speaks then to everybody else that's watching at that point. And I remember like leaving the movie the first time thinking, oh my God, I'm like feeling so fulfilled after a Michel Franco film. This is amazing.
I know, I love that. I love that about this film is, I sit and watch the last 30 minutes of the film every time there's a screening.
Yeah.
Um, to get the temperature of the audience and be able to do a Q&A kind of on having seen it with them, but also because of the way the film leaves people. People are very emotional after the movie, but not in a way that is like defeated somehow, even though if the movie were to start at the end, right? If that's where the movie began,
Hmm.
it would be like a really, really brutal movie, you
Yeah.
know? So I think especially in these times where we all wake up to tragedy every day,
Hmm.
um, that it's a real antidote. I love seeing what the movie does to people. It actually really motivates me. Look, I'm motivated by, showing off my own work because I feel very good about it. I'm motivated by showing off the film and its artistic success. I'm also really motivated because I feel like I'm carrying this film around and going like, I promise it'll make you feel different than you felt every morning.
Fair.
you know.
That's really great. I think any film that has the ability to give people a different outlook on life or change lives, whatever it is, it's always for the better. So I'm glad
Remind
that
people of their humanity.
yes, which is something that we're all lacking nowadays.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm really curious to know, and don't take this the wrong way, but what does Sylvia see exactly in Saul? Because their meeting at first is whew, obviously can go down a really, really terrible path at first. And I don't want to reveal much to the audience, but they start to get closer. And I was really curious what was the attraction, the draw for her over to him at that point, do you think?
I mean, you're asking me that. I I think that it has to do with the fact that he doesn't dwell on the negative in his own life.
Hmm.
And she is someone that is dragging a weight of a very brutal thing that happened in her past, right?
Yeah.
And this is a guy who is only looking to the future and really only looking to the next couple of minutes in this moment.
Yeah.
And I think that that is very, very compelling. I think you're with somebody who, like, she could have acted a certain way with him as she does at the beginning of the film. And it's not going to matter in terms of the moment that he's in right now because of the dementia,
Hmm.
but also because he's just got, for a guy who is got a certain amount of time left and a certain amount of time that's going to be very brutal, he's just an enormously positive person. Now we see underneath that later, he
Yeah.
reveals some of it, but like really, really in every moment, just trying to be like, this is me. I have dementia. You want to go see a movie? I don't even watch movies. you know?
That was maybe the most soul crushing part of the movie for me was, oh my God, a life not being able to watch movies and follow the story. Oh no. And I mean that sarcastically. There's obviously some
Yeah.
really heavy stuff in this movie, but
Yeah.
so working with Jessica, a great scene partner, absolutely. You two have worked together before, right?
No.
No. Okay, so yeah, I was thinking in my memory box, but I couldn't find anything.
No,
So
we've never worked together, but I did see a very early screening um, of the movie where she played Tammy,
I was a Tammy Faye.
as Tammy Faye.
Hmm.
And my wife and I went to, I think, one of the first, public screenings of it where she was there, and we were both just blown away by her performance. So technical, but also so lived in. It was like everything that an actor tries to do, different from herself, including herself. And we went up to her afterwards, both of us just very moved. And I think that was like maybe the first connection that I'd ever had with her,
Hmm.
was telling her that I'd maybe met her a few times before, but I really, really felt strongly about the work she had done.
Yeah. So how do you guys develop then that level of trust? Because this movie, to Michelle's credit, to both of your credits, it's extraordinarily intimate. It's very subtle, and there are scenes where the two of you get very, very physically close to one another. So can you talk to me just a bit about that trust that develops between the both of you as actors? Because whether it's one size fits all or you got to just develop it with just the actor that's across from you, and each time it's unique and different. Can you just talk to me a little bit about that trust that develops?
Each time it is unique and different, for
Hmm.
sure. The relationship that I had with Jesse Buckley in Maggie's
Hmm.
movie and the way in which we went about doing the very intimate stuff that we had to do
Yes.
is very different than the way that Jessica and I did it. With Jessica, I felt like that she and I just intuitively, and I think I can't put words into her mouth, but like for me, I intuitively felt like I really knew a lot about her. And maybe I was wrong, but I thought I feel like I understand you. And so with that, I felt very comfortable because I read people fairly well. We did
Hmm.
not talk about all of it very much. We actually rarely really interacted on set unless we were acting.
Hmm.
So which I think was very helpful because actors tend to chum around a lot on set,
Sure.
and we did almost none of that. We would show up on set, do the scene, and then separate, and then come back and do the scene, and then separate. And
Probably good for your character too to do that.
good for our characters too, because the ways in which they're connecting, it's not overly familiar.
Yeah.
It is it is actually deeper than familiar. They skip familiar and they
Hmm.
go straight to the headiest place together. They've actually kind of missed a couple of steps in terms of being in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's what makes it interesting. And I think that the way in which we went about being around each other on set contributed to that. We didn't plan it. And even the way we said goodbye, I've told Jessica this a couple of times. I've never said goodbye to another actor like this before. We finished filming. We're kind of outside of a subway. She's about 15 feet away from me. And they were like, that's it. And everybody clapped and everything. And we both just like waved from 15 feet away and then walked away. Um, and I think we both had a lot to process.
Hmm.
I think that's part of it. But it's also that we really left it all on screen. Everything is on screen.
Yeah.
And I
Uh.
think that that's a lesson somehow. It's like sometimes actors, if they're going to make love in a movie,
Hmm.
in life, they become a couple somehow. And of course, that frequently destroys it, right? There's really something to be said for not wasting a lot of energy off screen and just having it all be up there for people to see.
Yeah. I would agree with that. The moment where you fall into the bathtub Accident or planned?
I don't know if I should answer that.
Ah.
Let me just tell you this. I'll tell you this
Okay.
in general about the movie. Almost all of it's written down.
Okay.
But how it goes down is it changes. There's only one scene in the movie that's improvised.
Hmm.
And that was done because he films the whole movie and then leaves a couple of days to add scenes that we might need, to reshoot a scene if you need to even add a line at the end of a scene, which he did one. But there's one scene that we improvised. A moment like that of falling into the bathtub, yeah. Obviously, because there's dialogue that follows that has to do with it, it wasn't entirely improvised.
Hmm.
But the way in which I did it, that is, I think that might be the only take
Mm.
because we shoot a wide, right? That
Yep.
scene is in one. There's no coverage. I fell into the bathtub. I don't think we went and put me in another change of clothes and had me do it again. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that is the take. So that's what the quality that this movie has frequently is like the lovemaking scene.
Yeah.
That is one shot, one take, no
Yep.
coverage. There are several scenes that are like that, that are, one shot, one take, no coverage.
I think of like the intense big scene towards the end between Sylvia and her mother, and everyone that's in that scene is in that wide shot, and you're looking at each actor, including yourself, and how they are reacting in the moment to what is going on.
Oh my God, I wanted to
I,
disappear in that scene, but I think Saul wanted to disappear in that scene. I was like, how can I become part of the wallpaper,
yeah.
yet still be supportive? You know what I mean? You're like, I'm going to be supportive, but not in it.
Yeah. I mean, like, what do you do in a moment like that? You just got to let it play out ultimately.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I'm also curious to know too, because there were times where I was wondering in this, what does Saul latch on to that he can remember long term versus the things that he does forget? And were those conversations with Michelle very specific and deliberate?
Those conversations were not conversations I had with Michelle.
Hmm.
But here's the thing that I really learned from talking to these two guys.
Hmm.
Every time I called, they knew kind of who I was and that I'd called before.
Yeah.
They never remembered my name. They never remembered what I did for a living.
Hmm.
But it was a welcome call because I'm a friendly guy. And I think the calls were memorable probably because I would joke around with them and we were telling all kinds of stories. And I would always be remembered.
Yeah.
So, like when her daughter shows up at my house, for example, I know that this is someone I like.
Hmm.
This is my friend. There are people that are your friends, and there are the people that you don't like.
Yep.
And that is an important human thing to sort of remember, right? Like if someone really fucked you over, you hopefully will remember that. And I wanted to put his stage of dementia in a place that was not what we had seen in other movies before, which is
Yeah.
frequently like every single scene is about not remembering or, you know, having difficulty getting through. I wanted to show someone at the beginning of dementia, because a lot of people, this is an area that is not talked about and shown in movies that often. They could get along. They could, with the help of his notebook, which is not explained in the movie, but I do write everything down and I hold on to
Yeah.
that thing. Like when I go to her work, that's how I figure out how to get to her work. Now, when I get to her work, I forget why I was there and what I wanted to say to her. You know what I mean? And instead, we do what we do. But yeah, I was really interested in the very beginning, you know?
Hmm.
So, yeah, I kept a lot of that to myself. It could be random. You could like remember something that you had forgotten in another scene. That is certainly behavior that I saw with these people. One of the guys that I talked to while I was talking to him, he said, "Oh man, My son's here, and he's reminding me of the fact that I passed out in the kitchen and hit my head, and I woke up in the ambulance. And so that happened a couple of days ago. And I said, "Why'd you pass out in the kitchen?" And he was like, "I think like my medication, and I hadn't had enough sleep, and I, you know." Um, so seeing people really live their lives, have events like that happen, continue on, he's now talking to me, was important. It's
Yeah.
important to see people still living their lives and having dementia. There's a group here in New York that I've been in contact with quite a bit called Reimagining Dementia. And that whole idea of just reimagining what it
Hmm.
is important.
Yeah. My grandmother just recently got diagnosed with dementia just recently, so I feel like I'm gonna be experiencing that in my own way over the next however long it might be. And that's the thing about Saul that this movie has given me now, which is that may not know like necessarily how much time is left, but it's important to live in that moment and live it to the fullest that you can. And I thank you for like providing that to myself, many others out there, of course, that
Yeah.
are both dealing with it directly and also indirectly as well.
Like, don't jump the gun.
Hmm.
Don't bury someone before they're dead.
Right.
That's the real thing. Look to see where they're actually at. I mean, the way my brother acts in this movie
Hmm.
bored me. He's moved into my house and all this stuff, and I don't know. I think he's jumped the gun.
Maybe a little bit, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there's definitely an overprotective element, sure, but
Uh-huh.
that's coming from a place of love. But yeah, I definitely think also it's like the death sentence. It feels like it's signed and he's accepted that, whereas he's
Yeah.
not concentrating on the here
I'm
and
still
now.
here. I'm
Right.
still here.
Hmm.
This woman likes me. Give me a break.
Exactly. All right. Well, Peter, I we could talk to you for forever, but we only have so much time here, and I just want to once again say thank you for the time, and also thank you for the performance and the work here that you do. Of course, your entire career. I don't think I've ever seen you give a bad performance in anything, actually. So
I'm particularly proud of this one. I think
yeah.
partly because Jessica and I together make a very interesting soup.
Hmm.
And I think
I like
it's
that.
it's not we avoided sentimentality quite easily
Hmm.
because the combination of us was never going to be that.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. That's a good note to end it on there, Peter. Well, thank you once again for the time. Best of luck to you over these next couple of months, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, man. Thanks for having me on.
Take care.
Take care.